Today is Wednesday, October 12th. We'll tell you how world leaders are responding to Russia's latest attacks on Ukraine and Ukraine's newest request for weapons, and the deal in the Middle East that President Biden is calling a historic breakthrough, why there are still questions about whether it'll really happen. Plus, a major and final update in the murder case featured on the hit podcast Serial. The final results are in from NASA's practice run to save the world, and which major airlines are investing big in so-called flying taxis. Those stories and more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. World leaders, including the U.S., are saying they'll stand by the people of Ukraine, quote, for as long as it takes. Widespread missile attacks have bombarded Ukraine this week. Officials there say the damage to their cities would have been worse, but they managed to shoot down a number of Russian missiles before they could strike their targets. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says they need more of those air defense systems to create what he calls an air shield over his country. He's asking G7 countries, or Group of Seven, which includes the U.S., Germany, and more, to provide Ukraine with the type of missile defense weapons that can take down drones, jets, and cruise missiles from far away. NATO's top official urged members of the alliance to send Ukraine more weapons as well. A White House spokesman said the administration is working to send some of the air defense systems the U.S. has already promised right away and is reviewing the request for more. Today, officials from the U.S. and other NATO countries are meeting in Brussels to discuss best next steps. Russia's latest attacks on Ukraine are retaliation for damage done to one of Russia's most important bridges that connects their country to the annexed territory of Crimea. Russia's foreign minister said yesterday Russia is open to discussing serious proposals to end the war, but U.S. leaders don't think it's a legitimate offer. President Biden told CNN he believes Russian President Vladimir Putin is a rational actor who badly miscalculated his ability to invade Ukraine. When asked if Putin will really use a nuclear weapon, Biden said, "I don't think he will." For the first time since countrywide protests broke out in Iran, the country's oil workers have walked off the job. Videos show crowds of Iranian energy workers chanting, quote, "Down with the dictator." They're referring to Iran's supreme leader, who has been cracking down hard on protesters. Oil is a key resource for Iran, and one of the primary ways their country makes money. The protesters are hoping the country's leaders will finally listen to their demands. The revolts began 3 weeks ago after a young woman died in the custody of Iran's so-called morality police. The woman was originally detained for not covering her head with a scarf or hijab, as required by law for women in Iran. Her family says she was beaten to death by Iranian police. Since then, Iranian citizens by the tens of thousands have taken to the streets in protests. Dozens, maybe hundreds, have been killed in clashes with security forces. Thousands have been arrested. The White House has condemned the government's crackdown on its people and announced new sanctions on Iran last week. Even more protests are planned this week as the unrest shows no signs of stopping. President Biden is calling it a historic breakthrough. An agreement has been reached between Israel and Lebanon. The two longtime enemies have come together to agree on the locations of their maritime sea borders, specifically along a 330-square-mile area both claimed was theirs. The deal struck between Israel and Lebanon allows them to cooperate on exploring for natural gas under the Mediterranean Sea and split the profits of any gas sales. Some estimate the area is covering billions of dollars worth of resources. Nothing has been officially signed yet, but President Biden is already hailing it as a huge success for peace, saying it's critical all parties uphold their commitments. There is one big possible catch, though. A final draft of the agreement is coming in for government approval just weeks before Israel votes on its next leaders. If former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu regains power, he has vowed to cancel the agreement. Other political groups in Israel are trying to stop the deal as well. But for now, it moves forward. Stay tuned. Well, back in the U.S., a major and final development in a closely watched murder case. All the charges against Adnan Syed have been dropped. He's now a free man. You'll remember his case gained national attention when it was the subject of the hit podcast Serial. He spent 2 decades in prison, but last month, prosecutors revealed there's new evidence of 2 other potential suspects, so a judge overturned his conviction and he was released. He was put on house arrest with an ankle bracelet in case of a new trial. But now, all of that is over with. This week, the state prosecutor in Baltimore said they are dropping the charges after new advanced DNA testing. They tested the victim's shoes, skirt, tights, and jacket, and his DNA was not found. Syed was 17 years old when his 18-year-old ex-girlfriend, Heyman Lee, was killed. Today, Syed is 41. His attorney says he plans to continue going to college with hopes of going to law school. The investigation into who killed Lee is now back open. The beloved and talented Angela Lansbury has died. She was best known for playing mystery writer Jessica Fletcher on the TV show Murder, She Wrote. She also played Mrs. Potts and sang the theme song for the animated hit Beauty and the Beast. Her children said she passed away peacefully in her sleep. She was just 5 days away from celebrating her 97th birthday. She had a 7-decade career, though, across movies, TV, and musical theater. The London-born actress won numerous Tony and Golden Globe Awards for her work across the industry. She also was given an honorary Academy Award for helping to inspire a generation of actors. And she still holds the record for the most Emmy actress nominations. She was nominated 12 times for her role in Murder, She Wrote. All right, we have more news coming up still. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. Anyone else in need of cleaning out their closet? I am. But what's at least comforting this fall is that I don't have to worry about my shoes. My Rothy's shoes are high quality and durable and even machine washable, so they last me season after season. And Rothy's classic styles are always a closet essential. You may think of the point or the flat when you think of Rothy's, and those are great. But they also make ultra-comfortable sneakers, loafers, boots, and more. I love that my white lace-up sneakers from Rothy's go pretty much with everything. And because they're machine washable, they're so much easier than other shoes to keep clean. With Rothy's, I never have to worry about blisters either. And that's really important to me. Every pair of Rothy's shoes I've received, no matter the style, are comfortable right out of the box. So get stylish shoes versatile and durable enough to wear all the time with Rothy's. Get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. The results are in, and NASA is calling its Save the World test a success. Remember last month when NASA crashed a spacecraft into a faraway asteroid on purpose? The goal of the first-of-its-kind mission was to test if NASA could save planet Earth, just in case there's ever an asteroid headed straight for us. Well, NASA says it did, in fact, shift the asteroid's path enough to change the length of its orbit around a bigger space rock by 32 minutes. Apparently, a shift of even 10 minutes meant a job well done. The refrigerator-sized spacecraft slammed into the football stadium-sized asteroid about 7 million miles away from Earth. As NASA's administrator said, quote, "It was a bullseye." NASA called it a watershed moment for planetary defense and for humanity. To be clear, there is not an asteroid actually threatening Earth right now. This was just a test. Delta Airlines is investing up to $200 million to create a fleet of air taxis. The giant drone-like vehicles would pick you up at your home and fly you straight to the airport before your main flight. The home-to-airport taxi service is being created by a company called Joby Aviation that Delta is funding. Currently, the flying taxis are being designed as 5-seat electric flying vehicles that would take off and land vertically like a helicopter, but smaller. Delta does not have an official launch date yet. However, Joby has previously said it was shooting to start giving rides as early as 2024. Delta is not the only one betting on a future with flying taxis. United and American Airlines have also made investments in different companies, securing their own possible fleets of air taxis. Though, for now at least, air taxis aren't actually allowed to fly paying passengers in the U.S. Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, released the company's latest virtual reality headset called the Meta Quest Pro. Zuckerberg has turned much of his attention to trying to create the so-called metaverse, an immersive virtual world that he imagines people will work, play, and hang out in. The Quest Pro has updated technology that gives the headset more realistic graphics and can mix the real and virtual worlds. And with all that, it comes with a pretty big price tag. The Quest Pro will cost $1,500. That's $1,000 more than the company's previous headset. They're also trying to market VR as more than just gaming and more for everyday use, including at work. They partnered with both Microsoft and Adobe, so some of those companies' work-focused programs will be available to use with the new headset. The question is, will anyone want it? Critics say Meta has even had a tough time getting its own employees to join meetings with its new tech. Well, there is now officially a Fat Bear champion. Fat Bear Week has come to a dramatic close with the bear known as 747 clawing his way to victory. We're talking about that annual tournament known as Fat Bear Week that follows a cast of real-life Alaskan brown bears as they bulk up for the coming winter hibernation. Viewers then get to vote for their favorites. The event is broadcast online through a live nature camera. It shows a popular fishing river that bears regularly pack into like an all-you-can-eat fish buffet. Officials estimate this year's winner, 747, probably weighs around 1,400 pounds at this point, making him one of the largest bears on Earth. This year, a record 1 million plus votes were cast during Fat Bear Week. It's now off to a long nap for the bears. They're headed into hibernation and won't be seen again for another 5 to 8 months. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a message from our sponsor. So we've reported about it right here. The labor market is tight, and things are always changing. So when you need to hire, you need high-quality candidates fast. You need Indeed. Yep, find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Indeed's U.S. data found that most employers said it saved them days of hiring time after using Indeed's virtual interviews. As for Indeed's assessments, on average, applicants who scored proficient or higher on Indeed's reliability assessment were twice as likely to be on time for work. These types of tools are just part of the reason over 3 million businesses worldwide use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why when you sponsor a job, you only pay for quality applications from resumes in the database matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/newsworthy to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. So 4-day work weeks are nowhere close to becoming the norm, but more and more companies are trying it out. Earlier this month, nearly 30 more companies in the US and Canada signed on to a 6-month trial to see how it goes. And already dozens of other companies in the UK, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and more are piloting a shortened week as well. So thousands of employees around the globe are working 80% of the time they used to for 100% of the pay. In Britain, they're about halfway done with one of the largest pilot programs for this to date. And so far, at least, a majority of the companies involved say they'll likely keep the 4-day work week in place. Most of the companies taking part said productivity was either the same or improved. A handful said productivity significantly improved. Not all of the organizations that begin the trials complete them, though. The nonprofit that runs this test said about 1 in 5 employers drop out, many during the pre-planning stage when executives get cold feet about the challenges that can come with change. And another common concern in general is whether a 4-day work week is really practical for all kinds of businesses. Still, the idea of the 4-day work week has been around for decades and has especially gained momentum during the pandemic as employees began to reevaluate their work-life balance and employers question if the traditional way of working is truly the best path to productivity. Well, thank you so much for joining us as part of your daily routine and for sharing the show. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.